Welcome to 4.3 Savior. Now I'm doing this one a little differently because this type is not very easy to detect or understand, but my ex had this type and is actually what I tend to attract. They target highly empathetic people in a way to mirror them. As a reminder, they are motivated by the desire to be needed and looked at as someone that can help with the intent to get people dependent on them. They will choose professions that allow them to play God. Surgeons, doctors, therapists, even police officers. The drive is to be needed, to earn validation as someone's hero, but at any cost and without moral regard. They can overlap with the narcissistic and the maleficent profile if they start to enjoy the power that comes from another's pain. This pattern starts as they grew up in a home where love was based on conditions. That may not seem very traumatic per se, but just like how someone can shut down their empathy to survive pain, being loved only through condition trains the nervous system to disconnect and remove any emotional depth in connection. Love becomes a reward from being useful or the best, or it becomes a weapon of helplessness where they watched others suffered and may have even gotten blamed for it, like stating this is only happening because you were born. Then that turned into some deep shame where they couldn't fix it. On the surface, this type will look very compassionate because they must give this appearance of mental stability and the concept of being a good person. So they most likely won't even recognize the harm they cause. Aside from the obvious cases shown, a more high functioning example of this pattern would be the TV doctor. He grew up in a home where he was taught the only way to be was the best by his father, who was a doctor himself. And because he has a defined will, his father's praise was what made him feel worthy, so he went into the same field. He started off as a well-established surgeon and teacher, but that fame triggered his true colors that allowed him to get validation from a wider audience. It no longer became about medicine, but having the answers to fix all problems, whether right or wrong. This is significant to a line 5 as they are called the heretic, and in the not self, they feed off the projections others place on them, having to save them. Astrologically, this is the shadow side of Virgo, the natural healer. Virgos are logical, analytical, and deeply self-critical. They hold themselves to impossible standards, and when that empathy towards others turns inward, it becomes perfectionism. Validation starts to replace the connection. In his chart, Virgo sits in Pluto, the planet of power and transformation, which shows how his need for validation became tied to influence. The more control and recognition he gained, the more powerful he felt. This is one of the hardest types to change because as long as people need them, they will not become self-aware. Even if they experience unconditional love, they will prioritize others' needs of help over their partner. But on the lower end, if their reputation is tarnished or they do manage to become self-aware, polyvagal based somatic therapy, compassion focused therapy, or mindful self-compassion therapy may help. So make sure you follow and stay tuned as I break down the addict profile next.